Hey friends, I'm Leslie.
Hey guys, I'm Marianne.
And I'm Angie. Together, we are the therapists of Eden Therapy Co., and we are inviting you to have a seat at Eden's table.
Coming to you live from Miami, we believe in healing hearts, shining the light, and bridging the gap in mental health. Come sit with us as we learn, laugh, and explore how faith and mental health collide. Today's a good day.
It is a good day.
Today is the day the Lord has made.
Okay. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
We're about ready to talk about one of my favorite things.
What's that,
It's
Marianne?
wild.
It's not my favorite because I enjoy it. It's conflict, okay? We're ready to... I'm just like more ready than most or more ready than not to confront situations. Like, I don't like letting things go. I tend to be more confrontational, whereas other people tend to be non-confrontational.
Yeah.
And so...
I'm the non-confrontational.
What is it that you said? Like a sponge?
We will hold and hold and hold, and then we will gently let it all go.
You're wild.
And I'm kind of in the middle. I will let some things go,
Yeah.
but I like to let things kind of like simmer
Yeah.
before addressing it, because I've found that when people are really heated, it's not the moment to talk because nobody's listening to anything.
No, absolutely not.
That's fair. That's a good one. I recently had a moment where I had to let it go and just not address it. And I was like, man, people really do this. I had an issue and it just, there was no point. There was actually no point in addressing it because the person was just not going to understand or whatever. And I was like, my partner was like, I think this is just one of those things that you have to let go. And that blew my mind. I'm like, I can't understand how people live like this. I can't express my feelings and tell you why I'm mad at you. No, I can't do that.
Well, you did, so you can.
No, apparently.
I mean, you can, but if the person doesn't really understand it or relate to it, like at some point, yes, you are going to have to let it go.
I think we're setting a lot of people free today. Sometimes you do just have to let it go.
True.
Yeah. So, question, what do you guys think? Is conflict good or bad?
I think it's like you just said, both.
It is both. Why is it both, Marianne?
Okay. Literally throwing it to you so you can say it.
Leslie, dale, why is it good or bad? Is conflict good or bad? Like, what do you
I
think?
think it's both. Conflict, I think it depends on how it's handled. I think conflicts can be good in the if it's handled well and it leads to reconciliation and understanding. I think the relationship is taken to another level, right? Because two people are coming together to really hear each other and understand each other. Versus if conflict is handled not well, right? If it's handled poorly, then I think it create a lot of division and anger and resentment.
Yeah. My college roommate and I, when we were living together, we had this like huge blowout over the fact that she had a dog and I didn't want the dog, but she left the dog with me. And I was like, I don't even know how to take care of dogs. And we had this huge blow up. And I went to do my laundry. And when I came back, I was like, okay, so what do you want to do? And she was like, stop. I'm not ready to talk to you right now. And that was a case where I learned for the first time, wait a second, like you don't just express your feelings and everybody's okay. But it was really cool because like after that fight, our relationship got so much stronger.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's just conflict is necessary in relationships and it's gonna happen.
Yeah. And I think that it teaches you exactly what you just said, to push forward, to confront, like normalize, like, hey, this happens. You're not always, you're two different people. You're not always going to agree or see things the same way. But hashing it out does something. It strengthens you and it teaches you that you guys can overcome and you conflict doesn't need to be the end of a friendship, a relationship.
And the way you handle conflict is different, right?
Yes.
Everybody handles conflict different. So for me, it was like you express your feelings and then we move on and everything is great. And for her, it was like, no, you really hurt my feelings in this moment and I need a moment. And for me, it was like, oh, you don't handle conflict the same way that I do.
Yeah. Which is crazy. That's how I grew up. So my family, like, I think it was my mom mainly. Mom, love you. But
Shout out to all the moms.
yeah, she would kind of just blow up and just say really hurtful things. And then, I kid you not, an hour later, I would just fine, like as if nothing happened. I was like, are you crazy? No, like I'm not your friend right now. I don't want to talk to you. But when I was younger, I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to talk things out.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any of that. So I think for a really long time growing up, I had to learn like to set that kind of boundary of like, no, we can talk about it, but we're just not going to pretend like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Wait, so is what you're saying that in our families, the way that we handled conflict is how we show up in adulthood?
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah.
Our family is our first relationship. So it's our first like trial at like doing life and expressing feelings and managing conflict. So I think that that's where we learn our patterns on like how to relate and how do we communicate and how do we show up, you know? So yeah, I think absolutely the way that our family handles conflict, right? Is it explosive, right? Is there like in my family, there was like packing bags and you would leave and so you wouldn't address it. And so a few days would pass and then everything would just be like blown under the rug and like it would just stay there and you don't look at it and you don't touch it and you don't open the rug, like you don't lift the rug up, you just leave it there.
Guys, wait, is this how Hispanics handle conflict?
I guess. I
Do we just
know.
like blow up and then not handle what's
It's
going on
crazy.
inside?
No, it's wild. But I think that now that I think about it, I don't think like I wonder if our parents, the generation before them, their parents,
Yeah.
they weren't that communicative. Like it was
Yeah.
like it's my way or the highway, and
Yes,
point blank
yes.
period. Like your job is to respect me. There's no conversation that needs to be had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then as immigrants, like you come here and your focus is work. So you
Survival.
just got to deal with it and move forward, right?
Absolutely.
There's no dwelling on whatever conflict
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, have you ever had like a fight with somebody and you feel like they're not listening to you, but inside they're just like waiting to come up with like the next comeback, right? Like it's like you're fighting with
Yeah.
them or there's a conflict and they're not even listening to you. All they're doing is they're hearing you, but coming up with points why
Yeah.
they are right.
Yeah.
What's that been like?
Honestly, I think that's frustrating. I think that's one of those times where I think conflict can lead to division because you don't feel heard. You know, like, and you're not being heard, and you know you're not being heard because the person's already like rehearsing what they're gonna say back to you. So they're like you're being vulnerable enough to share how you feel or like you know what your stance is on it, and they're not taking the time to really listen.
Yeah. And I think that comes from also just a place of defensiveness when a
Yeah.
person feels like they're being attacked. Great place to mention like the Gottman's four horsemen, which are like the destructive patterns of conflict within a relationship, which is criticism, contempt, stonewalling, and defensiveness. And we all do these things. I think the more that we become aware in our relationships of when they're happening and how they're happening, and we start to bring them down, that's a huge help for our relationship. But the more that we kind of let it run loose, that's going to destroy our relationship. But that's one of the tough parts of conflict. When I feel attacked, I get defensive automatically.
Yeah.
Well, I think that if you notice that you're getting defensive, then you really need to look at what is the root. Like what is really going on that you feel like you have to put shields up, right?
Yeah.
Because in relationship, like we want to be heard, we want to be understood, we want to be loved. But if we're coming at it and there's two people coming shield to shield, there's no understanding. And usually it's because there's so much fear. There's the fear that the other person is going to leave or the fear that the other person is going to think that you crazy. Like there's so much fear that is driving all of these defenses.
Yeah.
Coming up within and showing up within relationship.
Yeah. That and I think like part of like work that I was able to do and acknowledge within myself is noticing that I would get defensive not from a place of fear. It was more of like I felt like my character was being attacked. Like I made a mistake and that's so hard for me to look at because it was like, oh wait, maybe I'm not enough. You know, like I need to defend the fact that I made a mistake because I don't want this to like look bad on me, right? And so being able to acknowledge like, you know, you're human, you're gonna make mistakes and it's okay to say, hey, I'm sorry, that's my bad. You know, like I fell short. And that I think leads to greater depth in the relationship because now that person feels safe enough to bring you those feelings, knowing, okay, this person's not gonna put shields up, walls up. No, this person's gonna be able to take accountability.
Right.
Happened.
And I think that's like the antidote, which Gottman mentions of what is the solution to defensiveness, and it's taking ownership, taking responsibility for your part to play in the disagreement in the conflict.
There's such a vulnerable piece of us when we're in relationship, that when we're in relationship, what we want the person to understand is this vulnerable part of us, to take care of it, to take care of our heart well.
Yeah.
And when we feel that conflict arises, we feel like our heart's not being taken care of. And I think that that's when, I know that that's when a lot of these things come up, a lot of these conflict issues, right? I would say. And we were talking earlier when we were getting ready for here about how when we approach conflict, there's two fights, right? There's the internal fight that you're having in your head.
Yeah.
And there's the external fight that you're actually having with the person.
Yeah.
Right?
And those two don't always, like, it's like what you're experiencing on the inside, like, I'm hurt, you don't feel seen, like,
Yeah.
whatever. And what's coming out was like, you're terrible and you did this, which is funny how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like I have a telenovela in my mind. Luis Fernando, pero qué pasa? And on the external, it's like, so how are you, what's happening?
And that's like great self-control, because usually it's like the other way around.
Well, that, and I feel like that also is what leads to people being like having two different narratives of what just happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are you talking
So
about?
good.
Because I'm here, like, in my mind, it's played out a very different way from what you're telling me it played out. Like, I did not say that. I did not act like that. What are you talking about? What did that happen?
You guys know that this is my favorite part of working with couples, hearing the two stories, because there's always 3 stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each person's, and then the
What
actual what's going on in the relationship. And that is my favorite part, because usually we're individuals, and don't get me wrong, it's not to say that this doesn't happen with me in my relationship, but it's so easy to get caught up in your own story, in your own feelings, and forget that there's another person who is going through the exact same thing in a different way. So a large part of couples therapy is bridging the gap between the two people and getting to the bottom of like, okay, like what's actually going on? What is this conflict actually about?
Yeah.
It's interesting what you're saying, because in family therapy, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So in family therapy, what are we doing? We're bridging the gap in communication between two people or multiple people.
Which is with like multiple. You just, how many people do you want to deal with at one time?
I love the family work, so I'm down for the family and helping either fathers and daughters, or fathers and mothers sometimes, or children and parents be able to communicate in a different way, because conflict will arise, especially during the teenage years. I mean, there's so much conflict.
I feel like teenagers are the most confrontational ever.
I mean, they're ready to go. That's for
why I
sure. They're
love
ready
them.
to say all their things. Yeah, they really are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because not so much of the frontal lobe is there, and they're very impulsive, and so they'll just say, and hormonal on top of that.
Yikes,
And
what a
so they'll
combo.
just say what's going on. But in the same token, if you think about it, like that's the mirror that's mirroring back to the parent, like who they are.
Yes.
So how many times do you hear, "I'm not yelling, I'm just passionate"? No, sir, you are actually yelling.
What have you guys found is good conflict? Like, what does good conflict look like? What do you think?
We teach here a communication template that I love, because I think good conflict is when you're actually listening to somebody, right? So the template kind of goes like this: when you blank, I feel blank because blank, and in the future, I would hope that you
Blank.
But the cool part of it is not just that there's that template, it's the next person has to repeat everything that you just said.
Yeah.
Right?
So reflect it back to you.
Yeah. And when you have to reflect back what the person is saying, there's a deeper level of understanding. And it's interesting because sometimes the parent will reflect back something that's completely not what the kid said, or the kid will be like, she just said I'm annoying. And it's like, that is not what she said.
Actually, you were listening, you would know. That's not the term she used.
Right. It's crazy, but that's what happens within communication and within a conflict.
Yeah.
If you really have an internal narration that's like so yours,
Yes.
you will not hear what the other person is saying.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, stop, take a deep breath. And can you repeat what happened? And it's kind of like reps in a gym. You got to continue to use that template over and over and over again for it to become kind of seamless. Then.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking, and then, like Marianne said, I think this episode's gonna set a lot of people free because I think conflict is a touchy subject for a lot of people. So, what would you guys say to someone whose conflict is really scary for them? And I think that fear kind of takes over sometimes in the midst of the conflict, and it can affect how they show up and how they communicate.
I guess to encourage them, like, yeah, conflict is scary. It just is what it is, but you have to do it anyway. You can't let fear stop you from being an active participant in your life or in your relationship. And you have thoughts, you have feelings, and the other person isn't a mind reader. So it's your responsibility to communicate that in order for your relationship to thrive.
Yeah.
I would take the next step, which is let's look at what really is underneath the fear, right? Because underneath whatever the fear is either something that happened when you were younger, or the way that your parents or your family communicated that you saw. Like getting underneath, like, well, what is this fear about, right? Because we don't have to be fearful as adults, right? Because we have a lot of different things that we don't have as children, but as adults, we don't have to be scared to have a conflict with anyone. It's going to give you information about that relationship, that person, and you get to decide how you move forward with that. But I think really understanding underneath what is going on, why is fear, what is showing up, would be the key to setting that person free.
Yeah.
And I think, like, hearing what you're saying, it's just, I guess when you don't know what's going to come of you expressing yourself or of you like communicating that's obviously really scary. Like, is this going to lead to the end of my relationship? Is this gonna, I don't know, break something? Is this come back at me, like bite me in the butt in a way? And I think that, those are the risks that you run. But you have to look at the other side. Okay, what happens if you don't communicate? Like, you may not experience like damage on the outside because you're sucking everything in, but you're going to experience damage on the inside.
For sure.
Like, that's going to run you dry. That's going to emotionally exhaust you. And that you're not going to be able to show up in the most honest way for yourself.
Yeah. It's good.
I think when people are dating in the beginning, it's really important to see, like, how does your partner handle conflict?
Yeah.
How do you both do conflict together? Because in life, there's going to be so many disagreements. In families, there's so many disagreements. In extended family, there's disagreements. I mean, disagreements just come up.
Yeah.
But if you and your partner don't know how to handle it or don't work on how to handle it, and it can be messy at first. Of course, it can be messy at first, as long as there's a willingness and an openness to try to figure out, okay, how are we going to work out conflict? Like, do we need a couples therapist? Do we need a family therapist? Like, what do we need to do? What tools do we need to listen to podcasts? Like, what do we have to do to grow in this area? But it's inevitable. It happens to everyone.
Yeah, that's great. Are you guys guilty of doing bad conflict?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. I think everyone is at some point.
We all are. Yeah.
I used to be the one that wanted to prove my point, and I would have like a running narration in my head, like, no, because this and this, because I have a strong justice feeling, right? Like I like the underdog, like they're gonna win, you know? And then I realized that sometimes you're fighting a battle that's not worth it, especially when emotions get really, really high. Because they get like super high, and then you don't even know what you were fighting about in the first place. You're just trying to prove a stupid point that leads you nowhere.
Yeah. I think I can acknowledge that at some point I was guilty of following the pattern, like Angie said, of like what my family was like. And I think my family really much avoided conflict because conflict was always handled so poorly. Again, like it always led to packing bags and leaving and just like avoidance and like disconnection. And so I think for me, I learned like, okay, you just kind of, everything is cool. Like it's fine. It's totally fine. It's okay. You know, thumbs up. It's okay. We're going to get through this. And I would kind of just like be passive and allow things to happen until there was so much that I was already carrying that I was not knowingly like angry at that person at that point, you know, for all these things that I hadn't spoken on or like brought light to. So I think that to me let me know like you can't, like there are some things you can absolutely let go. Like you said that you just have to let go of a situation like that. There are moments absolutely where that's necessary, but then there's also moments where you need to bridge the gap and let the other person know like, hey, this really hurt me. This is not okay, and communicate the boundary, because if not, the other person has no idea, you know?
And also, Marianne, you were saying about how you have to like tell somebody, but you're scared to tell somebody that you have a problem with them or that there was something that happened. But here's the thing, if you're in a relationship with somebody, don't you want to know how they handle the conflict? Because what are you setting yourself up for? A life of what? Like if you end up marrying that person or you end up staying within that family system, like if you don't know, you're setting yourself up for a life where, like you're saying, Leslie, you might build up and build up and build up and build up, and there's so much resentment that one day you just leave, and people are like, "Wait, why did they leave?"
Everything looks fine.
Everything is fine.
Yeah, no, I think I'm guilty. Oh my gosh. I use always and never more than I am okay with admitting. I had to check myself the other day. I was like, I really need to stop doing that. That's not okay. And it's so crazy, like having all the knowledge that we have and that we carry, like you know what is good for communication. You know what is good for arguments. And yet you're still a human being. It still happens. Like when I'm mad and I'll shut down.
Yeah.
And so I have to, it's work. And I think I say that to say that it doesn't matter. You could have all the tools. Like it's, you're not going to get it right 100% of the time.
Absolutely.
Like what's most important is that you're growing in your awareness. You're taking responsibility and ownership of how you're showing up, and you're doing your best to walk and work towards the outcome that you want.
Nothing like being in session and teaching somebody like a conflict resolution tool, and you're like, "Oh, this is how I should have."
That's awkward.
Last week, but
Well, we're gonna pretend I use it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
it's true. Well, on that tone, do you think that like conflict resolution or communication styles can be like healed, right? Like can be worked on or improved upon, or people just stuck to their communication style?
No, for sure, it can be healed.
I think it could be worked on. I think what I will say is I think you're always going to have the tendency to go back to your MO, whatever your mode of operating really is. You're more often than not going to fall back to that, but you can work on that stuff. That doesn't need to happen 100% of the time. Like you could bring that percentage down.
I also think that if you approach conflict with love no matter what, right? We're going to love no matter what. And that's the heart that you approach conflict instead of defensiveness, divisiveness, wanting to be right. But if you approach it with a heart of love, right? If you think about Jesus being like in conflict all the time because his whole
For
life
real.
was like a big conflict. But every
Sounds taxing. Shout out to Jesus. We love you, man. Wow.
Jesus. But yeah, for real. But he always approached everything with love, no matter what. Like even the cross, which is crazy, right? That he would die for us. Like he approached it with love.
Yeah.
There wasn't ever, it was like the decision that he made. And I think in relationships, we have to make that decision.
Yeah.
We're going to approach with a heart of love.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to get caught up in the you versus me stance when in conflict. And moving from that to like a we mentality. What's the goal of this conversation? We're on each other's side, and remembering that, because it's easy to forget in when you're heated. I think it's a big protective factor for your relationship.
Yeah. I also think that if that doesn't work, there's a form of therapy called psychodrama, and it's big on the role reversal, right? So like if for one moment you kind of like step outside of yourself and you think, what is it like for this other person? If I were them and I was trying to communicate with me, what's happening here?
Yeah.
So Leslie, you've done that with families where they take the role on of each other.
Yeah. It's been pretty insightful. Parents usually don't respond pretty well to how their kids are perceiving how they show up. But I think that it does lead to breakthrough, because I think there's maybe lack of awareness of sometimes they think that they're being, like, I'm just disciplining, or like this is what this is what I need to do for them, but they don't realize like how it's being received by their children. So I think that bringing it to awareness is the first step on like, okay, so now how do you want to show up differently?
Which is a great thing to say. Like, there's always a reason for you showing up like that. There's always a reason for how you feel, and it may not be wrong, but it may be problematic.
Right.
And so you have to be open and willing to be wrong, and to be open to be humble enough to say, okay, what I'm doing isn't working. How I'm showing up isn't working. How I'm talking, how I'm speaking, what I'm saying isn't working. What does work?
Right. That's so good. All right, guys. So let's talk tools for a moment. What tools have you used, Leslie, with families that helps with communication when there's conflict?
One of my favorite ones is the pause button, and some of my families have actually bought like a red button from Amazon that you can press. So when things are really heated, or you're seeing that things are escalating and there's not a good communication happening, people are not understanding each other, I always say somebody has to hit the pause button, right? And so somebody in the family hits the pause button, and that means it stops. Like there's no more talking. It's just everybody go, take 15 minutes, but they have to come back. Like there has to be coming back for resolution and reconciliation.
Great.
There can be just no follow through. Like it isn't a reason to escape or like avoid. It's more of like, let's take a pause because obviously things are really heated and let's come back to it.
That's great. Couples, you should really implement that. That's not just for families. That's actually great.
It's in any relationship, really. I think it's such a great tool. But what about you, Marianne, in relationships? What's a tool that you use frequently for conflict resolution?
I think the I feel statements are usually what I use a lot. When you do this, I feel this way because, and I would hope that you do this instead or whatever. I also think, why am I asking yourself the question, like, what is the actual problem? Why am I so upset? Why am I so hurt? And kind of getting to that so you can communicate that. Because sometimes we could get caught up in the, but you this, blah, 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 blah. Like, just take a moment. Why is it that you're bothered? What's at the bottom of this fight? What buttons is it pressing? And then go from there.
Yeah, I think all of these tools are amazing as far as being able to reflect and see like what is it that's going on. But I also really like just a stepping aside. So you stop the conflict and you just step aside and you witness it as if you had been watching a movie, and you kind of see, well, what's really been going on in this conflict, right? So it gives you a time to pause and reflect and be able to see. There's one tool, Leslie, that I wanted to talk about because we learned it early on when we had a conflict, which is to pray before you sit down to talk about what's
That's a
going
great
on.
tool.
And we learned it the hard way, I think, because we had a conflict in the beginning of you working here-ish. And I think like we tried to work it out and it didn't work, and we just went our separate ways. And then when we came back, as we were in our separate ways and I was praying about our conflict, I was like, wait a second, we didn't pray.
Yeah. And then once we did, it was like,
Oh, okay.
it all blew over.
It all blew over. It didn't get brushed under the rug.
No, it
blew
didn't.
over.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, so you guys like fight too? That happens at work? No. It's crazy.
Any relationship.
Yeah, any relationship.
And look at that. You're still sitting here
Yes,
4
we
years
are.
later, isn't it? For you guys? Yeah.
Indeed.
Love that.
Yes. I know. I can't believe we're going to be 4 years old. I know.
Yeah. You want to fight with me? What about me?
Marianne, you're funny. Because you're just like, I know. Okay.
No, I just take it. Like, I'm just like, okay, it's fair.
And it's not like big conflict. I think a lot of times it's just, honestly, being in the role that I am within our practice, it's tough sometimes.
Sure.
It's tough when you really care about people to have to also call them out at times, But like I've always said, fair game, y'all are allowed to call me out too.
That's great. That's a perfect example. It's conflict in leadership. That's what it looks like.
Indeed.
Well, thank you guys.
Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, so thanks for joining us today at Eden's Table. If you found this conversation helpful, share it with a friend, leave a review, subscribe, comment, like all the things.
Stuff.
We'll see you next time.
See ya. And as always, we're so grateful for this community. Let's continue growing together in grace and truth. Until next time.
Until next time. Bye.
Well, friends, thank you for tuning in. And remember, freedom is possible. Join us next time at Eden's Table, where you can always sit with us.